Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. First, it is clear this administration is in total disarray when it comes to the crisis of the coronavirus. At the same time, Larry Kudlow said it's contained, and CDC said it's going to spread. The question is when. There is no plan. The administration has no plan. They have cut back repeatedly on our lines of defense, whether it is in the CDC or in the National Security Council. CDC had, a couple of years ago, people in 49 states. CDC had people in 49 countries. Those were the front lines to prevent it from coming here. Now there are only 10. The administration's plan is inadequate, and all the ways that they've cut health care hurts us now. When there are 1 million people who don't have coverage, they're not going to get tested. When junk plans do not cover testing, which most of them don't, people are not going to get tested, and the coronavirus spreads. So we need this administration to put together a comprehensive plan. We need certainly adequate funding. We need to reimburse the states and localities for the funding that they have put out. We need a czar. We need one person in charge, and not somebody like Cuccinelli, who's a right-wing ideologue with no experience in health care and no experience in merging diverse points of view. We need a professional, someone who knows health, who knows how diseases spread, and who can unite the agencies. I would simply say, again, that the administration incompetence is towering and dangerous right now, and they've got to get their act together for the safety, the health, and even the lives of the American people. And what does the Senate here do with this coronavirus, with such danger? They put on the floor 2 divisive, anti-choice, anti-women, anti-family bills that the Senate has voted on within the last 2 years and will reject again. Leader McConnell said during impeachment he wants to get to work and do real things. Well, this is just a vote. It's red meat to the hard right. It will not pass, and it doesn't improve women's health. Dick Durbin is on the floor right now asking to do something real about the high rate of mortality, of mortality among women, pregnant African-American women who give birth. Why can't we do something real instead of this show, instead of this meaningless activity which is just done to please an extreme group of people? And we have other concerns as well. Gun violence. Why don't we do something about that? Election interference and the Russians interfering in our election, the wellspring of our democracy. Why don't we do something about that? Well, while President Trump is asleep at the wheel when it comes to addressing coronavirus and these other issues, McConnell's priorities in the Senate are way out of line with what the American people want. The House has passed 400 bills. Hundreds of them are bipartisan. When Leader McConnell and any Republicans say impeachment stopped us from doing what the American people want, well, we should look at what we're not doing today. No votes on health care conditions, no votes on strong background checks, no votes on election security, and nothing at this point on coronavirus. This is the Senate under Leader McConnell and Senate Republicans. The harsh fact: the Trump administration's dangerous incompetence is matched with the Senate Republicans' feeble, servile actions in putting America at risk. Senator Menendez.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. One point on the coronavirus to add to what the leader said. In 2018, the administration eliminated the Global Health Unit of the National Security Council. It was short-sighted then, consequential now, because you need to be prepared for the eventuality of a pandemic. You can't rush after a pandemic occurs to try to deal with it. So it was consequential in their decisions. But as we seek to keep the health of the American people safe and sound, we also seek to keep the health of our elections and its integrity safe and sound. And of all of the oversight challenges that we have with this administration, we will likely look back on the decision to willfully ignore foreign interference in our election as perhaps one of the most consequential and most damaging to our democratic institutions. And that's saying a lot with this White House. We're demanding the administration act on the intelligence community's consensus that Russia is actively engaged once again in election interference. That's pretty clear. We know that in 2016, the intelligence community said that they did so because they wanted to support Donald Trump as a candidate. And obviously, when a foreign country makes that decision, they believe that's in their best interests. But it doesn't matter whether they're advocating for someone or not. The mere fact that they're engaged in our elections is simply unacceptable. And so our message to the president is make election interference unacceptable again. Make election interference unacceptable again. We have never tolerated that. You know, we had Washington's farewell address, an annual ritual here that is read. One of the highlights of Washington's farewell address is the concern about foreign interference. Yet 2.5 centuries later, here we are, exactly with foreign interference taking place and an administration doing virtually nothing. We don't know necessarily who it is that they want to support now, but it frankly doesn't matter. The mere fact that they're engaged is something that we should be standing up to forcefully. And that's my last point. That starts here in the Senate. We passed out of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee on a bipartisan basis legislation Senator Graham and I led on a vote of 17-5, DASCA, directly related to Russia's interference. It's waiting on the Senate floor for a vote. What does it take to have a vote to protect our elections against foreign interference and sending a clear and decisive message to whoever seeks to interfere, any foreign country, any foreign leader, any foreign entity in our elections? We should be doing that now. And lastly, the administration already has laws on the books that we pass in terms of being able to invoke powerful sanctions against Russia, in this particular case, for its interference. That law overwhelmingly passed 98-0. It sits as a tool the president can use. You have Obama-era and Trump-era executive orders sitting on the shelf unused. All the power that exists to fight Russia from interfering in our election exists right now. And so the only question that can be asked, why? Why are you unwilling to use it to preserve the sanctity of U.S. elections? We will continue to force this issue because Americans, and only Americans, should decide American elections.
Thank you, Bob. Senator Murray.
Well, thank you. You know, today Republicans' hypocrisy is really on full display. After hearing Leader McConnell claim that he wants to get things done, Republicans have finally planned to vote on legislation. And what do they pick? Democrats have legislation to help protect patients with pre-existing conditions. Do Republicans want to vote on that? No. We have legislation to bring down drug prices. Do they want to vote on that? Nope. We have legislation to help expand access to reproductive health care so women across the country can get the care they need no matter their insurance, their income, or their zip code. Do Republicans want to vote on that? Nope. Instead, the same Republican leader who has bemoaned partisan games, even while playing them, and the lack of legislation, even while blocking legislation, is bringing up two anti-doctor, anti-women, anti-family bills that everyone knows are absolute non-starters. Let's be clear, this has nothing to do with passing legislation and nothing to do with people's health, medical science, or what is best for families. It is entirely about firing up the Republicans' far-right base with a partisan charade that distorts the reality of what families face when confronted with a medically complicated pregnancy. Instead of scaring people into thinking abortion is something it is not, and attacking Roe v. Wade, which the majority of the people do not want to see overturned, Republicans should stop this hypocritical act and work with us on legislation that can actually pass and will actually help families. We are way overdue for that kind of productive work here in the Senate. The bleak reality is that under President Trump and Republicans, millions of fewer people are insured, including children. And many people are being sold junk insurance plans that take their money away without offering decent coverage in return. When people cannot get the care they need, public health care crises worsen. Whether it's the threat of coronavirus or our country's unacceptably high rate of maternal mortality, we need people to be able to go to the doctor when they need care. So we're at the table. We're ready to repair the damage Donald Trump has done to families' health care. We're ready to protect patients with pre-existing conditions. We're ready to bring down prescription prices and more. It is up to the Republicans to decide whether they want to keep putting politics first or start really putting patients first.
Thank you, Senator Murray. Yes.
On coronavirus, what should the administration be doing that it isn't doing now?
We issued a 5-point plan. Number one, create a czar who knows what he's doing or she's doing. To bring the agencies together, it should be a public health expert. Second, ask for the right amount of money. Even Senator Shelby said that the amount the Republicans asked for was too little. We need the resources, both at the local level and at the federal level, to do things. I think Patty mentioned we need 300,000 masks. We have 300 million masks. We have 40 million, because every day you need a new mask. They're just short of everything. And restore the cutbacks that they made in CDC. Bob Menendez mentioned the National Security Council. They had a group that worked with other countries to deal with these diseases. That was eliminated. We also feel that they ought to say that junk insurance plans have to cover coronavirus testing. We don't have that. And Trump said yesterday there's a vaccine. Well, the experts told us it would take a year to get a vaccine or more. They don't have their hands around this. They're just sort of freelancing because they were caught by surprise. They're in a deep hole because of the cuts they made. But most of all, to keep the American people safe, they don't have a plan.
Do you think they're saying that this is under control, that it's contained, that everyone's getting better because they're worried about the stock market?
Well, I hope that's not the case. CDC said the worst is yet to come here in the United States. When Larry Kudlow says it's contained, you got to wonder what his motivation is.
Leader Schumer. On the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, Senator Sass argues this is needed because under the current law, while you can't outright kill a baby breathing outside the womb, you can neglect it. What is your response?
We voted on this before. It was defeated. And there's a law in 2002 that is on the books, current law, that covers everything Sass is talking about. It's a play to the hard right base. The American people don't support it.
Leader Schumer, you have been critical of the administration, how they've handled coronavirus, saying that they are in disarray. But what is the right balance to put pressure on them to say, okay, let's do this the right way, but also not over-alarm the public? Isn't there a risk in some of that?
Our job is to get them to do their job because they're not doing it on their own. And the public's alarmed already. Look at the newscasts on your news station and every other if you don't think the public's alarmed.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, Patty, go ahead.
I would say this. The way for the public not to be alarmed about this is to know that their federal government and this administration has a plan in place, the backlog in place for masks, for tests, for other equipment that they need, so they will be safe if and when this comes to our shore. That's how you create a public confidence, and we do not have that today from this administration.
When one of the leading administration people says this is contained and every scientific expert says not, that doesn't breed confidence in the American people.
Leader Schumer, roving wiretaps, lone wolf surveillance, those are some of the Patriot Act era provisions up for reauthorization on the 15th. Do you support those provisions?
Well, we want to get a fair and balanced bill that can keep us safe and at the same time protect people, and we're working on the various provisions to see what happens. Yes?
Is it a problem that Bernie Sanders, who could be the Democratic nominee, is praising Fidel Castro?
Look, the bottom line is very simple. We have a lot of strong nominees. We have a lot of Senate candidates running. I'm not supporting one or over the other, but I think every one of them will beat President Trump. Yes.
Washington Post reports today that Richard Grinnell's public relations firm was paid to do work for a U.S. nonprofit funded almost entirely by the Hungarian government led by Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Have you learned of anything else since his appointment that gives you concern about
Yes.
his potential?
What gives me concern about Grinnell is that he's a partisan. He doesn't look at what the intelligence is. This is our safety. And to have someone who just wants to protect President Trump, which is what his whole career has been, who's rife with conflicts of interest, which has occurred in Hungary and many other places, and has no confidence in the intelligence personnel who have worked so long and hard, many of them risking their lives for our country, is devastating. Devastating. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.